Now, first and foremost, I'm just truly beyond myself with joy, and I mean eternal joy just to be here tonight. I have so many friends here. As a matter of fact, I even have relatives here. So give yourselves a round of applause, without exception. A round of applause for making this possible. Yes, indeed. I'm about to call the panelists. I want to start with much respected Joey Altruda. And as he enters, give him a round of applause. Yes, boss. Brian Dixon, keep it going. Greg Lee. Persephone Laird. And last but definitely not least, Louis. Can you help with Louis' name?
No.
Louis Correa. I'll do this for you just to make up for a lack of the inability to pronounce the name. Give all the panelists a round of applause for taking time out of their Wednesday night to be here tonight. Now, you live in Southern California, of course, you know how traffic is. I have absolutely no adjective to describe what the traffic here in Los Angeles. But I'm really, and I sincerely mean I'm beyond myself with joy. So many people wanted to be here tonight, but we just couldn't accommodate them. And from a realistic point of view. Now, this is the first one. I want to acknowledge my good friend from ever since I arrived here in Southern California, Eric Kohler. Yes. He didn't know I was going to call him out. But Eric Kohler, could you pass by here? So that people see you and acknowledge you. Eric Kohler, come on, up here, man, up here. On stage, yeah, man. Without Eric, this would not be possible. I came here and I saw this place and I said, Eric, reserve it. I want to do something. He said, what you want to do? I said, I don't know. Just reserve it. And so I was doing a series of shows with Ernest RC over at KPFK. And they were going magnificently well. I think we had Louis, we had Greg, and we were about to get everyone on, but the show, well, that's another story. So I knew that this would go very well. We're getting calls from people from Australia, New Zealand, England. What are you guys doing in Los Angeles? We want to be part of this. So I said, Eric, History of Los Angeles Ska. Give yourself again and Eric a round of applause. 30 years. And just in case you don't know, the musicians, especially the legends in Jamaica, they are constantly on Facebook, those who have the ability to use Facebook, watching what's happening in Los Angeles. People in Mexico are watching what's happening in Los Angeles, the entertainment capital of the world. You guys have done a wonderful job, and of course the audience, in preserving this great music that began in Jamaica some half a century ago, but will never die. Not as long as you guys are continuing, and of course the audience are supporting, we're going to keep Ska going. I'm not even a preacher, I'm going to keep quiet. Now, this is a good part. The array of spectacular musicians, pioneers, who these 5 panelists, just in case you have questions about why they are here, we're going to settle that after I read this. Over the past 25 years, they have worked with the likes of Cox and Dad, founder. Not all of them, but some of them have worked with Cox and Dad, Ronald Alfonso. These are household names. I'm going to go through it though. Prince Bustard, Derek Morgan, the King of Ska, Rico, Alton Ellis, Ken Booth, Phyllis Dillon, Desmond Decker, Justin Hines and the Super Fabulous Dominoes, Stranger Coral, Ernest Ranglin, Eric Montemaris, Keaton Tex, Santa Davis, Tony Chin, Fullwood, and the list goes on and on and on. Now, is someone in here? I can't see all of you. You think one of these persons shouldn't be here tonight because I want to rectify and clarify this. You stand up and tell me why these people should not be here. All right, so we settle that. Because I know you're ready, you know, Greg.
like Project Runway or something.
So I want to start with you, Joy. Your microphone is hot. I tested
I don't know.
it.
It's hot?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
it's so
Like
hot,
fire.
baby.
Can you take... We have kids in the audience, me, so please don't corrupt me.
Oh, don't be so Joey tonight. Just be like Joey Light. Yes, okay.
Right, so... take us back to the days when you first started playing ska, rocksteady, and reggae.
Well,
What were some of your early influences?
well, I would first have to say that the first influences was the music that was being played on the Jamaican hi-fi sound systems in the early 50s, which I wasn't aware of at the time. One of the genres of music I was brought up on was jump blues, swing music, and what was like boogie shuffle, New Orleans rhythm and blues. So it was things like Louis Jordan, Wynonie Harris, Louis Prima, the music of New Orleans like a Fats Domino and Dave Bartholomew and things like this. What I found out later, much later, was that this music was all the music that all the guys were playing on their DJ systems in the early 50s in Jamaica. A lot of them would come here to the States to buy records and scratch the labels off so that the other DJs wouldn't know the names or the artists of the music because it was a competitive thing.
That's true.
And the only way you could hear that song was to go to their dance because radios were not in every household in Jamaica at the time. So as the trajectory by the late 50s, most of these guys started producing their own music, which was based upon these records for the dancers with Jamaican musicians, kind of impersonating the sound of it, and it morphed into its own thing. But what's very interesting is that among these guys were primarily Coxsone Dodd and Duke Reed were the two primary guys. And then Prince Buster came, and a lot of different people that were producers of this music. So for me, I was very akin to this music since my childhood and teenage years collecting 78s. Many years later, I had a friendship with Coxsone Dodd, and he stayed in my home as a guest, and he was looking through my collection of 78s, pulling these out. Certain ones he would go like, "Oh my God, I haven't heard this in years. I used to play this on my sound system, but I got rid of all of my 78s years ago when it was an outdated format. Oh, will you tape this for me?" You know, and he would just did it over and over and over again throughout like the whole week. But that was my influence primarily until then I found the specials. And which was a lot of gateway, like what the gateway into ska was for a lot of people. The two-tone, which then brought us into what were the specials reviving. They were reviving music from 15 years before, but it seemed like it was like 40 years before because the music sounded so archaic in a certain sense. It sounded so antiquated. The sound of it sounded so rustic in a certain sense, you know. So that was largely what it was, you know. And when I formed Jump with Joey, I'll keep this brief, but we did not start as a ska band. We started off as a band that played jump swing music, and the type of music I was just describing, plus some Jamaican, what they call blue beat, which was the shuffle pre-ska music, and 2 or 3 ska songs. So we really started out as a band that paid tribute to the music of the Jamaican sound systems. And later we morphed into a ska band, and that was when Roland Alfonso first came to play with us for the first time, and we prepared a bunch of the songs from his repertoire to play with him. So
Excellent.
That's
As we move along.
in a nutshell.
Wonderful. Brian, let me respectfully ask you to introduce yourself and tell us about your involvement. I know you've worked with multiple bands over the years. What is not known to a lot of people that you also work with some rock bands. You produce some rock bands, ROCK, right? Yeah, so, brief introduction.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Fresno.
You are?
So, So my introduction into ska was seeing Let's Go Bowling back at home. And we were kids, and we couldn't get into the clubs that they would play. So we'd stand outside, me and all my friends, and they were kind enough to open the door so we could watch them. And we were just little kids. And we started playing, Lewis started bringing us out to LA to play shows, and that was my first introduction to the LA scene. And then I moved here in '95, and you know, the only person I knew in LA was Lewis, and I was like, I want to get into the scene. And so Lewis introduced me to Min the Skin from the Dynamics, old friend of ours, and Tall Paul Morton, and just I remember the first show I went to was Lewis put on, of course, and the Allentons were playing, and they knew everybody. I was just watching them, and I was like, I want to know these. I want to hang out with these guys. And so I talked to Lewis and brought him in the studio that I was working at, because I'm a recording engineer, and started recording the local bands. And Lewis was a pivotal part of that. And so then I joined C-Spot and played with just a bunch of different bands at the time, but just kind of dove right in because I had such a respect for the LA scene.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Greg Lee, out of respect, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. As if everyone here doesn't know you.
Hi, I'm Greg. I play in a band and have played in a band called Hepcat since around about 1989.
Now, go ahead.
There's one thing I wanted to say. You know, when I look at the people on the stage and some of the people that were spoken of, some of the people in the audience, these are the people throughout my time doing this that whenever anybody said there wouldn't be this without this person, one of these names were involved as far as Los Angeles goes. And I feel really proud. I'm super humbled to be sitting up here amongst you guys. Mm-hmm. And all you too. Thanks.
I know you're not going to say it, but what it may not be generally known to the audience is that Hepcat is one of the most popular ska, rocksteady, and I leave a question mark, reggae band in the United States. Right, but ska
I agree with the question mark.
Definitely. Really and truly one of the most popular and has remained that way over the decades. Give them a round of applause. Yes, ma'am. Queen P, a brief introduction.
Hi, everybody. I'm Queen Bee. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much, you guys. I'm the only girl, so I might cry. But anyway, I just have to say that you're all so special. I mean, I had to think about all of us. You know what I mean? I can't just think of just us because you, as we know, are a part of us. You know, all over the world. I mean, it goes from like the sound guy to the DJ to the bartender to the families to the children that you brought. I could go on and on. I wrote a little list. I got it right here, but we'll talk about that later.
To the crew of skins that
To the crew.
kept us from getting our butts kicked early on.
You know, to everybody. And you have to think about that time. We didn't have internet and we didn't have phones. So it was about us all being a family and a community and saying, oh my God, I'm so excited to go to those shows. You know, and thanks to certain people, I'm able to be here. But I remember going to my first show, I'll make this sweet and short, Ye Olde English, and seeing them, and then becoming friends with them. And there was this guy named Shannon, and he played bass, and he brought us over his stack of records. He said, I'm leaving town. You guys have the weekend. Figure it out if you want all these recordings. So we sat, Ocean 11, the masterminds they were, and figured out how to get it from the elementary school record player onto the tapes. And then I got to sit and label all the tapes. And after a while, I was like, Rocksteady. And that was the tape, number 19 I could pull out, was King Tubby or the Scottalites or Phyllis Dillon. But I wanted to share one story of how I got into the music. I was in school, and a friend was running down the hall saying, there's no way I'm singing a song about Touch Me Tomatoes. She said, they want me to be in this band, Ocean 11, and I said, I'll sing any song to be in that band. So that's how I started, and that's how I was introduced to Phyllis Dillon and all the music. But I owe a lot to Ocean 11 and to all of you. So thank you so much, you guys.
And
one thing that you said, a lot of you guys aren't familiar with the band Yield English. I'm not sure, are you? So some are, some aren't. You know the Agrolites, right? So in the tree of that particular style, there's the Agrolites. Who was before them, Gian? Rhythm Doctors. Yield English. So that's the progression. A lot of people don't know that style in LA began with Yield English. And through that came Ocean 11, who you didn't give nearly enough credit for.
I didn't want to take too much time. I could go on and on.
Queen P, founding member of Ocean 11 in a really early time. It was good times.
And Hepcat, took us under their wings. So then it was the possibility of being able to be with them and then meeting all the other bands, that are like family. And what was beautiful was every show was the different set of bands that you would put together. So we were always excited to go because we could see the Allingtons or Mobtown or C-Spot, but we always knew we would see each other and you guys there, So yes, Ocean 11, thank you.
additionally, Queen P, of course, she won't say it, but she is the owner of one of the most magnificent female voices, not only in California, singing ska and reggae, but I think throughout the United States. Blessed with a magnificent voice, and she certainly knows how to use it. And she's been doing so for the past 3 decades. Continue.
And Junor, I want to thank you too, because you and Eric gave me an opportunity to then create relationships with the legends and give back, because we know that Ocean 11 played a lot of covers, but we were learning the sounds of the music more so than these songs. We were very invested in the sound and the recording of the music. That was what Ocean 11 was. So when I was able to go back and now sing Housewife's Choice, track number 1, with Derek Morgan, because of you, I can't even tell you. So the full circle, and now managing these artists and helping them to share their music all over the world, and to have Derek Morgan say, please play my songs. Because if we don't pass it on, at that time, you have to remember that time. And now with vinyl and the DJs, Nina and everybody, and all over the world, they're able to hear that these legends are able to go and perform for all of us, all over the world. That's amazing. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. And last but definitely not least, Louis. Now, when a lot of us are plowing, he's sowing the seed as a record producer. Tell us about your beginning and, of course, how you got it.
Well, my beginnings in the LA Ska scene was my introduction to some of the LA bands through Ray Perez. He's probably here somewhere in the audience. And, oh, there he is. Me and he started up Blackpool, and that's where we did a lot of the backyard shows. We did that for about a year. But basically, he was the one who reintroduced me to ska. I was familiar with the two-tone, but when he said, let's do some ska shows, I was like, sure, what kind of ska? And he gave me a tape that had some bands on there. I'm like, this is not what I remember what ska is to me. Let's go see a band. So I remember seeing Orange Street, seeing Orange Street out in an orchard out in Riverside somewhere. And I was like, okay, I get it. So that was the beginning, and then we said, let's start a first show. And one thing I actually absolutely wanted for the first show was a stage, even though it was in a backyard, because I've been to backyard shows with bands, and no one really can see them if you're like 3 people back. So I wanted a stage, and I think that's what made the difference in that show. So that was the beginning of when I started up in the LA Ska scene in 1992.
Additionally, you started a record label as well. Tell us about that. I read in a book from a Jamaican author, big you up, broad you up. How you say it in English? Highlighted him for his wonderful job that he did in starting a record label. That's why I said earlier, a lot of us are plowing, and you planted the seed. Yes. Because without the records, we wouldn't have any memory.
Yeah, I started the label a few years after we were doing shows and producing shows, because I realized a lot of the bands that were booking and promoting didn't have anything out, and they were actually good bands. I mean, obviously we know that now, and they did not have any music out. So I started recording the live shows, and based on the live shows, that's what the Blackpool compilations came out, volume 1, 2, and 3, and then from then on, the Ska-Authentic CD, which everyone really liked, and I think that one was the one that cemented Steady Beat Recordings as this is what's happening in LA, because I think I covered a lot in that CD. I think. I don't know.
Joey, back to you. Can you tell us, list some of the venues that were playing music in that time?
Well, the King King on 6th and La Brea. Let's start with the King King for me, because from 1989 through 1994, I was the musical director of the King King, and it was an eclectic place for music. A lot of roots music, Americana music, blues, jazz, what we would call a rockabilly, and different things like this. Retro. It was a lot of retro music, and it was a venue where, at the time, it was a lot of discos going on here in LA, and not much live music that had once thrived during the 80s. So Mario Melendez opened the King King and put me in charge of it. And that's how Jump with Joey came to be, because we needed to fill different nights with house bands. And so it was put upon me to start creating house bands. And that was where we created Jump with Joey, because it was a sound that no one else was doing at the time. It was a revivalist ska music. Like I said, it had not started as purely traditional ska, but it's kind of where the band began as part of what then became the traditional ska scene, because other people were starting to play it, but we were the only band that actually played it modeled after the Scatolites, with an acoustic bass and 3 horns and written arrangements and things like this. So then from once that happened, from like the first year we really caught on, other venues then were starting to hire us. There was the place on Robertson, Luna Park was a great venue for a lot of ska bands. And it was an eclectic band place. We had a place where we used to play all the time called Chaos. It was like a European type restaurant that had different bands. Once again, eclectic taste, all across the board. And I met Louis. Did we do a show at the Las Palmas Theater together, I think, which now is some really hellacious, crappy disco, like gentrified in the heart of Hollywood. But at the time, it was just this ghetto old theater with the seats ripped out, where and it was an all ages place, right? Where where like 5 bands might play in a night or something, and 3, 4, 5 bands, right?
Yeah. I think also too, it's important. The cool thing about Jump with Joey at the time was all these scenes were just emerging, re-emerging. I won't say first time, because before us there were other generations. But we had the ska scene, we had the punk scene, we had the rockabilly scene.
And the swing revival scene.
And the swing revival scene.
Yeah.
Joey and Jump with Joey created an atmosphere where every single one of those scenes could come in. As far as I know, for the first time, and blend in one bar.
He still does that.
Yeah, they could blend it, but the first is it's worth noting. I mean, it could happen anytime after, but the first time, where we all went in there, and there's, Joe Strummer's over there in the corner, Billy Idol's over there, there's this swing guy, that swing guy, there's actors, and everybody just got along. It wasn't one thing or the other, and that has shaped the way, for me, the way I like to try to sculpt what Hepcat does in the way of shows. Don't just leave it to one thing. It was a pretty amazing and awesome thing to see. And then Joey and his crew would be up there going from swing to jump boogie to blues to all this stuff. And everybody had their own little niche, and we all became friends. And in that way, it made the entire LA scene even stronger. That's all I want to say.
Duly noted. part of it was also the birth of the swing revival scene. And we were like this as well in our beginnings as Jump with Joey. And we helped we let Royal Crown Review use our instruments during our break one night at the Kinking, and it was the very first time they played publicly. And then they went on, and we got more into ska, and by the time the swing revival thing happened, we weren't pegged as being part of that. So we weren't actually labeled as such. But getting back to venues, there were a lot of venues. The Las Palmas Theater, as I mentioned. What were a few other these places?
Hong Kong Cafe, Alligator Lounge.
Hong Kong Cafe.
That's where you played first for one of our shows, and
Yeah.
these guys opened for you guys. These guys, Ocean 11
Yeah.
opened with
Yeah.
Catch 22, who later on became the Allingtons.
Right.
Part of those guys.
And then there was the Troubadour and the Whiskey
Troubadour,
and the Roxy
Whiskey.
show.
Yeah. Terraza Hamay was a big venue as well. That
There was a
shows
lot of
up.
independent promoter.
The Palomino.
Yeah. The Palomino. No, the Palomino's a great
That's
place.
where Ocean
The
11 first played with Hepcat.
world's
Country
most
club.
famous country bar, and there we were like,
I've said
Like-
it 1,000 times. Screaming Jay Hawkins for $5.
oh yeah.
Palomino. Never happen again. Jerry Lee Lewis, $5.
Yeah.
Jump with Joey, Hepcat, and Ocean 11.
Yeah.
$5.
Yeah. Brian, I want to drag you into the discussion. Tell us about your first gig that you played here in Southern California. And what was it like?
Lewis
so
might
long,
remember.
right?
I think it was one of the first times that you guys came and played at the Las Palmas Theater. I think you opened up for Joey.
What band
for
was
Joey.
that?
Right.
You
opened
didn't
up
play
for
by
Joey.
yourself, right? Weren't you with a band?
Which band?
What band were you in?
Choose a checkmate.
Yeah. So we started playing shows in LA before I moved here. And
But your personal experience, I'm personalizing. Can you personalize your personal experience? What was it like your first time?
well, we were shocked because of the way everybody dressed. You know, we dressed like idiots, you know. I still do. But everybody was dressed to the hilt. That's really made a huge impression on us. And the bands were so good. I mean, all of them. We were just blown away. And we weren't that. We were just friends from high school. And we didn't know how to play. So, but all the LA bands were so great. And so we went back home just rethinking our game. And
Indeed, wonderful. Greg, I want to ask you to give us your best description of what the mad, rude boy, rude girl, skinhead scene was like then.
In the 80s? I'm sorry.
When you started,
Around the early times there for us?
yeah, whenever you started, your personal experience.
At the time, it was experiencing, I don't know, third or fourth revival in LA, maybe fifth. I don't even know, because I'm learning that there were people around in the early 80s in LA recently that I didn't know about. I'm learning all this. Yeah.
So
That's us. We were here.
So for those who are not familiar with the scene, what is the first, second, and third wave or scene?
Well, the first wave would go back to, I would assume, Jamaica, as far as ska goes.
I'm learning as we go. along.
Okay. Well, no, because even for me, it gets cloudy. You know, people
yeah.
talk about waves all the time. I mean, are we part of like fourth and fifth? Are we part of
Not
third, fourth,
really.
and fifth?
We're part of the third because, like,
Yeah.
the second would be two-tone
England,
music
yeah.
in England,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
And
for
then,
sure.
as we found that music,
But there's kind of one in between. You know, so when people talk about waves,
You mean like the Untouchables?
I mean East Coast. I mean the East Coast, and sure as hell, I mean the Untouchables and Fishbone, because without Fishbone, there guaranteed would be no this guy sitting here. Untouchables too, you know, and I'm sure a lot of people have that same thought. But yeah, so it's hard for me to talk about waves. Going back to your question about the scene. The scene, when I first got into it was really hodgepodge, and people were just trying to emulate people they saw in books and in movies from England, and a spattering few from Jamaicans who lived in England, and a spattering few more from Jamaicans. But the reality of our scene at the time, and a lot of you guys are spoiled. Because when I got into this, there wasn't a show every week. There wasn't a show every month. There wasn't a show twice a year. So if we opened up the LA Weekly or went down to Melrose and picked up a flyer or went down to Venice and pulled a flyer off a telephone pole and it said reggae, we were going. Anything that had to do with reggae, we went to any reggae show, which now the same caliber show would be laughable because, you know, oh yeah, I'm going to buy nachos and watch a reggae band. That's literally what we did. We'd drive like, you know, hundreds of miles to buy a 45, which now you could get like that in my parents' stolen car. You know, it was like that. I mean, there's a difference. There's a huge, obviously, a huge amount of accessibility and convenience that everybody enjoys now that we didn't have, which is the glue that made all this happen. Going back to before Jump with Joey, going, you know, with your early startings with Tupelo Chain Sex and all the LA kind of pseudo rock punk bands from Melrose and downtown and all around in Orange County. The glue that bound everybody was that we were away from each other and we were all trying to find a way to get together. And that kept going all the way up through the 90s. And now the baton's kind of been handed to a much faster runner called the internet. You know, so now people can look more correct, going back to what I said before. We tried to look like them. We try to look like that. Now they look exactly like them if they want to. All they have to do is push a button. Also, too, about the scene, one second. I'm sorry, man, he's burning over there.
He'll open it up at the end.
Also, too, the scene, as it were, as far as mods, skin, rude boy, rude girl, was a lot more violent because there was a lot more people trying to figure out who they were and how they fit in. And that goes, again, back to what I was saying to Joey about creating that environment, because that was like the beginning of the end of there being fights every weekend at every show, because we suddenly realized we had common likes, all these different scenes. We didn't have to fight each other because, well, God, I go to a rockabilly show every once in a while. Well, I'll go to a ska show. You know, and it got everybody to blend and kind of come together. And that also lent itself to this whole internet thing, because suddenly all these scenes are interchangeable after this period. And then suddenly, boom, you could go online and you could be anybody you want to at any time. Not sure if I answered the question, but...
Yes, I'm completely satisfied.
All right.
Totally satisfied. Queen P.
Yes, sir.
Your microphone. I'm wondering if you could describe for us what the scene was like when you first arrived on the scene and comparative analysis to compare then with now. Is there such a thing that using comparative analysis to describe the 80s with 2017?
You're saying compare it from then till now.
I think you can, right?
I think I can. I
After
don't know
all.
if I thought about it.
You've been active by and large.
Yeah, but I'll answer it. I'll figure out a way to tie it all together. I just feel like I didn't know it was a scene. I was thinking a lot about the music, and I had always liked to go to thrift stores if we're talking about clothes, but for me, we were so dived into this sound and the music, and then being on these stages packed with all of us, you know, in a room together, just seemed so amazing, you know, and I don't think I was able to realize it. If I'm going to compare it, I'm going to say now, being able to think back, you know, when I was invited to do this, I'm sure we all felt the same way. We started to think, oh my gosh, of every single moment. And then I realized we probably all felt it was something really special all these years. And then now we're able to express that together. So for me, I think now, the only thing I thought that was different was back then it seemed like any band could play together. There could be a combination of 3 or 4 or 5 bands, and we would all go.
and they were always different. And we didn't think about, we never thought about headliners. We just said we want to go on at 11 because we're Ocean 11, But I think really we were like that. But there's, it seems like people started to worry more about stuff that became important. It's probably because of the internet, things like that. But I think that none of that matters, because even the younger bands coming up, I know that they'll learn, we'll all learn, because we'll remember how special this is at some point, And I just will say, if I can, thinking back, there were certain moments, then I'll wrap it up. But when Joey invited me to sing, that's when I first sang again after a little bit of a break. I didn't know that people knew me. I didn't know. I knew they knew Ocean 11, but I didn't know really what was going on. And I didn't expect anything. And I was really nervous backstage. And I just remember, because of Lewis getting the Ocean 11 CD out, we would get letters, actual letters from all over the United States, So I knew people knew us, but I didn't know if people would know Queen P. I never thought of myself as separate from that. So when Joey called me out to sing Don't Stay Away with the classic rhythms at the time, I was able to come out at the El Rey, and then people were applauding. I'm sorry, I'm humble about it, but I'm just saying, when I heard that sound, I was like, oh my gosh, it meant something. And so from that moment on, I knew I had an obligation to do something with singing, the music, all of us, and how could I give back? That's the kind of person I am. So now I stand here today being able to give back to artists that I really care about, and thank you to my partner, Nathan, we're able to give back to a lot of the legends. So I do want to thank Tazy, because without Tazy in that third... I'll make it short, but in that third wave, if we're talking about that compilation for Ocean 11, that's really what got us out there, besides all the work of all of us, but that got us out to a whole different crowd. And, to hear like Sublime loved, Best of Love was one of their favorite songs, or, just something you did that meant something to other people. So I want to thank you, Tazy, and just thank all of you. So did that kind of answer it enough?
Yes, ma'am. I'm completely
satisfied.
It was the same word I used earlier.
You brought us to now. So I'm really grateful for you keeping it going, and all the bands, and Eric. And lastly, here we are today with people like Aton and Chuck and Robert and all the band friends I would see, Brian, all the work they do, Jimmy Cliff winning a Grammy. So where we are now, being able to sit and look at what they're still doing, still playing their instruments and still calling their friends and still bringing a crowd. So that's where we are now, right? So thank you guys.
Mm-hmm. Louis.
Yes, Junior.
A lot of general stuff are so wonderful, but I want to get a little bit personal. And what is not generally known is that you brought some of the biggest names in the reggae and ska fraternity here to Southern California. Justin Hines, first time, Louis.
Yeah.
Eric Montemaris, first time, Louis. Desmond Deck and the Fabulous Aces, first time, Louis. Yeah. A lot of people don't even know that. What are some of your best memories relate to us?
No, Desmond was at the Waters.
I was
in
there.
San Pedro. You can't ask me that. The best memories.
Not necessarily working with legend, but even local bands. But some of your personal memories.
You're asking me to go back 20 years.
No, sir. You go with take the question wherever you want to.
Well, one of the best memories I have that is in my mind forever is that night that I did the show at the Whiskey and the Roxy, the Intensified West Coast Ska Festival. That was the Whiskey and the Roxy, and I had 18 bands on there. And I think that was a culmination of all the work that I had been doing in the past 2-3 years, a couple of shows here, a couple of shows there, some of the shows at the Terraza Jamai. But this one was the one where I think everyone was there. Everyone that was anywhere was there. I think only one band wasn't there, and that was Jessica. And that's because they were up touring up in Northern California. I had booked a tour with them. And Daryl, Stiff Dog Records, he was my tour manager, who was my road dog for a while. He helped me. He did a lot of my production work at a lot of the shows. And I just think that guy don't get enough credit sometimes. Daryl Rubio for all you guys. So that was one of the memories that I remember is that particular show. It was a big show.
Mm-hmm. How about Desmond Decker?
Oh, Desmond Decker was special.
How were you able to bring him to? How were you able to bring him to Los Angeles?
Well, that
And
was...
when I say Los Angeles, I'm including, of course.
Yeah, I
San Pedro?
started... What? San Diego? No,
No,
I
no,
did,
not
no,
San
no.
Diego, San Pedro.
San Pedro. But I would work with Makeda and sometimes, bring artists here and then take them down to San Diego. I started working with a lot of the Legends artists because of Eric Kohler. He ran Conscious Vibes, and because of him, he introduced me to you. And because of that, we started working with, you and guys had the access, I had the access to the clubs and bars, and that's how we started bringing him in, which was, to me, something that I've tried to do it on my own, but, when you're working with a lot of international agents, and you're not a well-known player, they really don't pay attention to you. So when you guys came in, I said, okay, thanks. And that was one of the reasons that we worked with Eric Montemorris, Derek Morgan, Justin Hines, all those guys that you mentioned, Phyllis Dillon. I mean, that was an excellent show as well. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can I mention the Reggae Nucleus magazine real quick?
Yes.
No one can
Eric
stop you.
Kohler,
No one in here will stop
Junor
you.
Francis, which was a key to validating and legitimizing exactly what you were saying, because you could just say, look, this is the Reggae Nucleus magazine, and then people like that would take heed in this, and that you are working with the people from Reggae Nucleus magazine, which would then make them actually pay attention and rise to the occasion.
I don't think Eric knows the impact he's had on the ska reggae community. I know he was more geared to reggae, but he really lent a voice to ska. I mean, I wrote an article. A couple people I know wrote articles for his magazine, all basically focusing on the ska community because we all understood it was a scene. And during that time, I remember when I started off in '92. Yeah, we booked some shows at the Hong Kong that didn't work out because we mixed bands, a lot of Orange County bands with LA bands, and that mix just don't go. It's like oil and water. We learned. Fast forward, 94, 95, 96. During those years, the scene was more cohesive. Why? Because I think the formula was there. I figured it out and said, listen, okay, these are the bands you book. These are the DJs you bring. Mm-hmm. Because that's when Mark and Ted started doing DJing along with Boom Boom. He came in and started DJing, and that gave it more of a vibe in the scene. And I don't think anyone here would argue is when you walked into one of the shows, it was like walking into a big family reunion. It's like, hey, man, everyone is here. We're here again. Oh, we just did this last week. Well, let's do it again.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Also about Eric, really quick, I know that Eric and Junior put a lot of thought, and I didn't want anyone to think that anyone was overlooked because I know that they really spent time, and they did talk to Angelo and certain people and Tazy and other people. So I think they know what they're doing, and we'll trust in that. But I know that they really put a lot of thought into who they asked to be here, so we're grateful.
Must have been a difficult decision to make. A lot of people to consider. About the Reggae Nucleus magazine. For those of you who don't know, it was an underground fanzine, a very high quality version of it, that included new acts in reggae and dancehall, classic acts in reggae, and classic acts in ska, and the revivalists of ska, all in the same magazine. And it was quarterly, or was it a
monthly?
Monthly, yes, monthly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Now, it's real good to historicize. Very good. But we are nearing our destination now, so I'm going to ask each individual to tell us what project they're working on now as we speak. You may as well kick it.
What projects? Well, it's plural, but recently I've been, in the past couple years, I've been developing Joey Altruda and Crucial 5, which is a soul-infused dub reggae band with tinges of ska in it, and beats and breaks and things like that. And with Blake Coley on drums, and Jared Meeker, and Roger Rivas from Agrolites, and a couple of the horn players from Jungle Fire. And so we've been working on completing an album. And also I've been going a lot, in the past 5 years, I've been making my way down to Rio de Janeiro a lot, and creating now a sound system that will be my own productions featuring Brazilian artists, and putting my own spin on it, and as a way to present them to a North American audience, and actually have a more economic way to then get on the road and perhaps use musicians along with the sound system or not, but have my options and make a whole new batch of music, so to speak, because I've always done hybrids of music and superimposed styles against each other or just done strict styles. So it's basically a hodgepodge, a mishmash, and you never know what you're going to get, but there's going to be a lot of Brazil in there.
I think it's extremely unfortunate that you've neglected and abandoned us and gone to Brazil, but that's all right.
Nah, but they're first cousins, you know. They love reggae down there.
Of course, I know, boss. Yeah, the same question. What projects are you working on now?
I'm still working with Western Standard Time. That's Eitan Avenari's band.
In what capacity are you working with them? In what capacity are you working with Western Standard Time?
I am the recording engineer, and I play guitar when Eitan calls me.
And I'm the bass player.
He's the bass player. Greg's a singer. Persephone sings, too. And so it's kind of like, I think half the people in this room are in that band. I just...
Explain what Western Standard Time is.
Oh, it's a ska big band?
How many people?
I don't know.
It's a full big band.
30.
Yeah,
5 trumpets, 4 trombones, 5 saxophone players.
Right.
A lot of rhythm
people.
section. It's about 20 pieces, right?
Yeah. So about 20 people. It's a big project, and I don't know how Eitan does it. But I also mixed the new Expanders album, which is about to come out, our good friends, and an album for Penny Real Junction, which is it's a Beatles. It's the first side of the White Album, and they did it all reggae and ska, and it's great. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh, ska.
What came first?
They do Obladi Oblada, but they do it dance hall.
What's the release date for the album
I don't
you're
know.
currently working on?
They didn't tell. It's like this fall.
Wonderful. I want to say congratulations. Just about everyone here is in Western Standard Time. Somehow they won't draft me. Greg, what are you working on, boss?
At the moment,
Yes, sir.
Hepcat is re-releasing all the old albums, Out of Nowhere, Scientific, Right on Time, and Push and Shove, to vinyl, because some of those never went out on vinyl. And
Approximately how many albums?
what's that?
How many albums?
I think we're going to do 4. One of them might not make the cut, but we'll have to decide which. Hopefully it's not Scientific, because I love Scientific. Yeah, we're re-releasing those to vinyl, and that all began because I went into my closet looking for Right on Time, and I realized I no longer had a copy of it. So I called Epitaph, and I tried to get a record, and they're like, oh, we don't have any more of those. And I was like, well, what do you think about if I went and made a couple? And they're like, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So now we're re-releasing those. But as far as me continuing with Hepcat, these album record releases were meant to go up to the end of the year and culminate in the release of Hepcat's new album. We'll see where that goes. And then, feels weird you guys are applauding that.
It's genuine.
Yeah, well, I mean, the majority of people in this audience I know by name, and we've talked, so it's weird. Don't applaud me. Outside of that,
It'll just look like.
after that, Western Standard Time, for sure, is going on. You all should check it out if you haven't. There are 2 different projects, AgroCAD related, which means Hepcat and Agrolites blend. And there's a couple more projects like that I'm not quite prepared to talk about right now, but you'll hear about them.
Top secret.
Top secret, yeah. I'd have to kill ya.
Queen P, the same question. What projects are you working on? A project? Singular?
Whoa. Like a project.
Well, the beauty of, like I was talking about our relationships that Nathan and I created. Nathan wrote an email to Keith and Tex quite a few years ago, or, quite a few would be 5. And they started, he said, would you like to play? You never know what you can do. You just got to take a risk. And they said, what? Well, yeah, we'd love to be together. And they've been friends forever. So they came and they played in LA thanks to Junor. And through that relationship, they asked us to manage them and work for them. And we've learned from that experience, and we've taken on a lot of artists. So we're continuing to do that to spread this word of their music all over the world. So Keith and Tex go to Japan coming up. They just got back from Switzerland. They're going back on a European tour. They put out a bunch of new releases. So we have a lot to do with creating that relationship with other people. So all the relationships I established over the world, I actually just passed that on and was able to give Rocksteady to a bunch of people. So we work with BB Seaton, the Gay Lads. We took on a new project, the Kingston All-Stars. And so so many more artists that I can't think because I'm not trying to brag, but the Jamaicans, all those great Rocksteady artists that want to get out there have reached out to us. And then I continue to sing with like Fully Fullwood and Soul Syndicate when I can, and other bands and Western Standard Time. And I really the thing that I should have learned how to do was record and work on Pro Tools when Ocean 11 first started. But I love that I still have friends, so I'm looking to I've always wanted to do something with females, like a female night, and then some kind of recording. The way that the world is right now, I think there's some really neat music we could put out to spread some good vibes. Thank you, yes, right? Because this is the music to do it. So I'm trying to think of something up here to put out and put out in the world. And then I just want to give a big shout out to people that come to all the shows and still support, because I see you out there. You're the ones that make this happen, and I love you guys. Adrian, Alita, Delana, all of you, Nina, all of you out there, Jason, everybody that we didn't get to say your names. And if I forgot you, just know we love you, okay? Yeah. So my next big thing, Junor, is to give them all a hug.
Fantastic. Now, Lois, you have the enormous responsibility to bring the discussion to finality. Oh, bad English, right?
Just shake my head. Are you talking to him or me?
We're going to open the floor for discussion after.
You want me to talk about current?
What you're doing, my boss.
Oh, what am I doing right now? Right now, I'm waiting. Steady Beat Recording still continues to put out records. Right now, we're waiting from the pressing plant. We were discussing this earlier. These pressing plants are taking forever, but we're waiting for the Altons, new 45. They're kind of melodic, soulful rock. And then after that, I'm in the studio with Spaghetti Cumbia, working on the Cumbia record. And after that, who knows? I mean, that's a lot of time, whether you think about it or not. So, and continuing promoting clubs and certain nights I have around town, Barrio Funky, Babaloo to Boogaloo. We got an after party tonight for everyone that doesn't know, at the Melody Lounge. Continuing DJing as well. So that's what I'm working on.
Wonderful.
Continuous improvement, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, for the late arrivals, I want to do introduction. Joey Altruda. Give him a round of applause. Brian. Brian. Give Brian a round of applause. Greg. Queen P. And Louis. Now, the historians all over the world are writing books about Louis and the work that he did in Southern California. Again, we plowed and he planted the seeds. That is to say, he put on the shows and he, of course, made records. So that's very important. Cox and Dad realized that at a very early stage, that you have to make records for posterity.
One thing I like to say is the history of LA Ska is not over. It continues. It continues. It continues.
Right about now, we're going to open the floor for discussion. We know a lot of people have questions, and we want to entertain a few questions. Thanks to turning the lights on. Why are you leaving? That's horrible. But so we need a microphone. I think people should queue up so that we can. We have approximately. Eric, how much time we have, sir?
We're on time.
We have 20 minutes for question and answers.
Joey only took us 3 minutes over.
I'm not good at multitasking. You said? Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Who has a question? Mm-hmm. Your name is? Joshua. Joshua, stand so we can see you. I hope you're not armed and dangerous. All right.
I'm a little drunk. Nah, I'm just curious. What would you guys consider came first, ska or reggae, and what influenced what? And that's just my main question.
You mean
It was
what,
ska.
what
It
music they
influenced
like
ska.
first?
Unanimously ska. Ska.
What came first? That was just my main question.
From Jamaica or
From the beginning, like from the origins, what came first? Because from what I heard, it was ska first, and
That's
then
right.
reggae came after.
Yeah.
But a lot of people
heard right.
told me wrong, and it's like I just want to. I'd rather ask the
Ska.
people that
It was
started
ska.
it. You know what I'm saying? All right, cool. Thank you.
Ska came back around because of reggae's popularity. Yeah.
so that answers your question. Anybody else with a question in front or in the back? I think we should queue up. We have about 20 minutes to my right. You have a question? I think I recognize you. Tell the audience your name, eh?
My name is Nina. Hello, everyone. Hello, panelists. So my question is one kind of geography or context. Why Los Angeles? What brought, ska music to Los Angeles, and in particular, this kind of like pull to the 1960s? And I'm sure a lot of it is the individuals involved, but is there kind of this contextual thing where traditional ska emerged in LA at a particular time?
I could begin the answer. I don't know whether you want to help, but for me, it was an outgrowth of punk rock. Okay, and with that, you get two-tone music, which then, like the Specials, Madness Selector, and so forth, that came here from England. And then because of that, the Untouchables started. And in the early 80s, we had one club for mod people with like basically one band. It was the On Club. It was the Untouchables with a whole row of scooters and these guys. Basically at the same time that people were reviving rockabilly music, they were doing that. So out of this came people that had moved here from New York who were from England. They moved to New York first, they made their way out here, and they knew about Jamaican music, and they showed it to us. They were friends of mine like Jason Mayall and his brother Gaz. Okay, prime examples. They sat me down and they played me these records of the original ska recordings. And some years later, I started Jump with Joey and the other bands. I don't know how you guys found these records, but by the late 80s, Cox and Dodd was then distributing records from Studio One out here in tiny amounts, like 10 LPs at a time at Bleecker Bob's on Melrose, for example, or Rhino Records in Westwood, like pre-CD era. So this is kind of how Southern California found. Otherwise, there were mail order auction lists with people like Charlie Morgan and Outer National that were going to Jamaica, buying original records and selling them like mail order auctions. No internet.
I think too, Nina, when I think of your question, I think of geography, like you brought up, and what Joey's saying. Going to my own story, I lived way out in the valley. So that first day I saw the scooters go by with all the patches and checkers and stuff, what's that, Before you know it, you're trying to figure out what that is. And through trying to figure out what that is, those are those guys who listen to ska. Really, what's that? And then they play a ska song for you. I think it was probably the Specials or something like that for me. And you try to get to where it is. LA is really, really spread out, as you all know. So when you go from the Valley to Hollywood, Melrose, or to Venice, or whatever, and you see 8 other guys wearing like a Specials patch and a Madness patch, you start to feel like kind of a connection to all these people. And the more things you go to, the more people you see. And it's like a domino effect, where more and more and more and more and more people start going, what's going on? I want to get there too. And we're all trying to find, again, we're talking RTD. We're not talking I got a car when I was 18. The bus system, in case you don't know. I don't know what they call it now. But okay. Dated, right?
No sympathy for those who still ride the bus, eh?
Quadrophenia, the movie.
But that's, we would go as far as we could to get closer to the music and get, oh, there's a band playing, and there'll be more people like this, and it just kind of becomes a snowball going down a hill where it gains and it gains and it gains, and before you know it, bands start popping up because they want all these people to be showing up in Redondo Beach. We want all these people to be showing up in Granada Hills, you know, in Orange County, you know, they always had oodles of people showing up there. It was always a thing where, because of geography, it would draw more people into the fold, and that's what I believe it was.
But for us too, it was also, as you know, from being a record collector, a friend that would collect records, and he could our friend liked all kinds of music, but he happened to have a big mass collection of Jamaican music, you know, and then you hear one song and you're hooked, you know, for me. So that's how.
We had to tape our friends' records.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Right. And also, none of us mentioned the profound effect of the film Quadrophenia as well, which is a big piece of information for all of us.
Craze.
Dance craze as well. Yes, of course. These films were like another big piece of the puzzle of like just the visuals of it.
Another question from the audience. Brief introduction.
Oh, okay. I'm Jen. Hi. So,
The last name for those who don't.
my name is Jennifer Lynn Rice. Thank you. Los Angeles ska was always known for being traditionally sounding compared to a lot of other demographics that were happening at the time. As you guys kind of mentioned some of your gateways, some of mine were Scientific, Running Through the Cornfield. They had a couple others that, it was C-Spot, Israelites, for sure. So as I had dug deeper because of different covers and different influences, I had gotten into ska that way. And once I had gotten to the Scotalites, then you kind of, you're like, oh, I struck gold, right? So what was your guys' influence or impression when you first were introduced to the Scotalites? And what allowed you to have that influence your music demographically? Because LA is always about trad ska.
I have a Hepcat origin story that goes with the Scotalites. Before Hepcat, we had a band called the Sharpsville Step. Me, Destin Berry, Lino Trujillo, Rosie Calvano, and no, before Dennis. This is talking 10th, 11th grade of high school. We had this little band, and we tried it, and we played with Let's Go Bowling once, and I was like, oh my God, we had a big gig. We're gonna play Let's Go Bowling. And then that band kind of fizzled. But we all went to shows, and this is one thing, if any of you ever read anything I've ever said in an interview, and I'm going to start talking faster to make time up. We all went to shows back in the day. A lot of us went to shows, not necessarily for the bands after a period. After a period, we started going for the DJs because we weren't so much interested in No Doubt anymore. We were interested in the rocksteady and the ska. And one day, I just realized, you know, we pay ticket price to go to listen to a DJ. Why is there not a band playing this? So we started the idea of creating that band. I got a tape, Scotalites, Stretching Out. I sat in my room, and yes, I smoked a little bit of weed at the time. I sat in my room, and I smoked weed for an entire weekend. It was like Friday to Sunday afternoon. Listening, playing, Stretching Out, back and forth, and finally it hit me what I was so drawn to that music. It was the double bump of the drum. And I called up Destin Berry. I was like, Destin, dude, listen to this. Boom, 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 boom. Do you hear that? He's all, dude, yeah, it's the Scotalites. I'm like, no, you gotta listen to the drumming. That's what we need. That's how we have to do it. He's like, all right. And I thought, dude, I think I know the guy. I saw this guy playing Oi. And that was Greg Narvis.
Indeed, thanks.
So going back to Jen, your question, for me, it started out with definitely Fishbone. That was like my first show where I was like, what the hell is this? And then it went through that, people, you like this? Check this out. You know, this is special, so check this out. It's the Untouchables. We're going there right now. You want to go? It turned into that. And then after that was this thing with the Scotalites, trying to figure out what what we were wanting to do. And that's the Hepcat, one of the Hepcat origin stories. That's Greg Narvis right there, the chief drummer from Hepcat.
Introduce yourself and raise a question, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Diggin, a 20-plus year fan of everybody here on stage, definitely. I was just curious because, as you guys had reiterated throughout your panel, that History of LA Ska is not over, as we closed with. I'm just curious if each one of you could give one particular up-and-coming band that you would recommend for us to follow here in the LA scene.
Steady 45s. Yeah. Steady 45s. Delirians. Those are my top two. Anyone else?
That's it.
Does it have to be Los Angeles?
Yeah, Western Standard Time.
That's not up-and-coming, but I follow.
It is. You ain't seen nothing yet.
I won't contradict you. Thanks.
I'd say also just like support by buying the music too, you know, because there's someone like Robert, happy birthday, my man. But you know, bands that
Babylon.
maybe friends that started out playing ska, you know, which then led to reggae. But you hear their music, where it's gone and what they do now. And so I would say when I hear Arise and the Expanders and those guys, you know, I could sit and listen to it all because not only are they my friends, but they've created their own sound. So they're not up and coming, but they've got music coming out, so keep it going, right?
Also, Angel City Records.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that one.
Angel City Records is putting out all the... Jackie Mendez.
There you go.
Hurricanes.
Introduce yourself and perhaps ask a question.
Okay.
You weren't just standing here looking good, right?
Well, hello, my name's...
I know her, by the way.
Yeah, actually, he got me my ticket today. So thank you. And, well, I wanted to say hello from everyone from Mexico City because I just got in from Mexico City, so I came to LA. And I wanted to say hello to everyone from Mexico City. They're so excited that I'm here today. And actually, one of them's like, hey, talk to Joey, see if he can play with us. So maybe, I don't know. And, well, also, I wanted to know if you guys knew how much you have influenced the Mexico City scene. Because in Mexico City, everyone's like telling me about music, and they're like, jump with Joey, Hepcat. I went to see Western Standard Time a while back. I don't know if you remember. Greg, I'm so nervous. Yeah, Greg. We saw you guys in Tlatelolco, right there, and I know you're going to be playing at Nonstop. So I also wanted to say, well, thank you from the Mexico City scene. Everyone's so, like, loves you guys, love Ocean's 11. For real, like, they're always telling me about you guys. So I wanted to say hello from everyone over there. And
we just want to say we could not do it without you guys. I mean, you're so great and so supportive, and the fact that you travel, and I know all the artists we've sent over there, they just come back raving about your kindness and how you all sing at the top of your lungs, all the music, and you're just beautiful over there. So thank you so much for being so supportive.
Yeah, so, sorry. Well, I'm from Indiana, but I was living in Mexico. But I was living in Mexico City.
Indiana, Mexico?
I've been living there for 5.5 years, but I'm from Indiana.
So she has a right to claim Mexico. As a matter of fact, I saw her when I was down there with Derek Morgan and Ken Booth, so she can claim Mexico.
The question was that, do you know your influence that you have on the Mexico City scene?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not saying it with like a big head, but sure. over the last 8 or so years, you know, we didn't know that there was anything for us or anybody up here in Mexico until Brian and I went.
Someone you really should thank out there is Ruffy. Yes. Ruffy TNT.
As I was saying, we went out there with Roofy. Roofy brought us out, and we had no idea that anybody outside of like a few diehards would be in the Hepcat, but it turned out there were quite a few more. And can I say one more thing?
Say two.
Okay, thank you. That reminds me what she's saying of when Hepcat first went to Brazil. Went to Brazil and I was like trying to work on my Portuguese and I was messing up. And then I finally get out on stage and I totally flubbed this whole little speech I prepared in my head. But somebody had told me before, you know, where you guys started, how'd it go? Because this goes to someone else's question too. Where you guys started with like the Scotalites and specials and you had this graduation up to being a band and the other bands that you play with. Here in Brazil, we started with like California Ska Quake and the Blackpool records. So when we went out on stage, all these people who were laughing at me for my Portuguese and were speaking to me in Portuguese, like, oh, dude, you're fucking up. You should just stop. You should just stop and sing the song. After that, they sang word for word every song, as loud as we were singing it. And I'm not sure what that means to each of you, but what it means to me is that whole progression we've been pretty much talking about all night, where where did it begin? And how did you get into it? And all this other stuff. All that stuff we went through, they started with an album that we were on. The people on this stage, they're familiar word for word, like I say, every song with every record you put out, you know, all the early records that Tazy put out, you know, and I always thought that was really cool, and I didn't even know. The world south of here was kind of closed off to us as far as anything until the internet. And then suddenly we start realizing, oh, wow, there's a whole group of people the size, you know, that population-wise that equal America that are in the ska just south of here. So yeah, that's why I just say, yeah, I'm aware, because when I found out, I blew my mind. You know, we had no idea. We didn't even think to go further south than Tijuana. You know? And that's it.
Indeed. Our last question for that.
Okay, last question. Pressure.
The audience wants to see you.
All right, audience. Hi, I'm Amy Weingartner Culhane, and I want to thank you guys for your great stories tonight. Loved hearing the history and learning all about it. But as a relative newcomer to LA, what venue or place that, you know, produces evenings of ska or this kind of music would you recommend? You know, drafting off that other question
Spikes
of
Bar,
where to
but
listen to.
it's
where.
about to get torn down. Spikes.
Spikes, yeah, that's
Spikes.
Yeah, I'd get into Spikes before they tear it down. I think all you guys should show up. They just had it?
It's kind of catch as catch can. You might go and see something at the Echo. They put on good shows.
Okay. Yeah,
What's the theater downtown that's owned by the Echo?
the Offbeat Bar does a Sunday night once a month or something like that.
Yeah, the Rocksteady Lounge.
Rocksteady Lounge at the Akbar in
I mean,
Silver
it's
Lake.
more of a DJ night. It's not particularly, it's not a live music thing. But
There's something really great too. Where you could take all the children, Reggae for a Reason, Fully Full with Tony Chin, Santa in Huntington Beach, and it's every Sunday, and it's beautiful, and you can eat and take your kids and hear great music. So.
That's great. Those are some great suggestions.
Beautiful place to stay indoors on a lovely Sunday afternoon.
There are a couple of Facebook pages too that I can't think of the names of that, you know, they pretty regularly post what's going on weekly in LA. Yeah.
Wonderful questions. Thanks to all the fans who raised questions. Give them a round of applause for their bravery. Now, as a Jamaican, I feel that I carry the burden of 3 million Jamaicans on my shoulders.
The burning questions.
Because growing up in Jamaica, I was told that ska was not on a par with American music. We proved that to be a lie now, right? Because Jamaica produced one of the greatest musicians in Dan Drummond during the 60s. I didn't say that. And so as a result, American and British, I didn't say that. Chris Blackwell said it, American and British radio producers, record distributing companies were prejudiced against the music. That's why you didn't hear it earlier. So I feel the obligation and responsibility to tell you that you should blame the sources. That even 50 years after we've seen that Jamaican music is on a par with any other music, and today you can travel around the world And in every major country that you go to, you're going to hear music from 3 countries: United States, England, and an island that sits 150 miles long by 50 miles wide. You're going to hear Jamaican music somewhere along the line. So Jamaican music has historically been on a par. You ask, was ska before reggae? Excuse me? All right. I don't mean to insult you, because I don't have arms on me. I'm armless. I'm not even dangerous. Again, I want to thank you all for coming out. We're going to ask all the musicians to come up here and take pictures. And you all should stick around and, I guess, socialize, because you don't get this opportunity very often, rarely. And I can assure you, Eric, we're going to do a second one, right? And maybe a third one. There you go. There you go. A lot of people are dissatisfied and displeased that they weren't on the panel. We're going to bring you on. No worries, no problem. That's how we say it in Jamaica. No worries, no problem. No worries, no problem. Robert is in the house? Adrian, too. Yeah, happy birthday. Man. I can't sing. Don't ask me to sing. If I was a singer, I wouldn't be here. Don't ask me to sing.
Yeah,
Robert and Adrian.
Too.
So how about the musicians? Can we get the musicians to come up here? Let's acknowledge the musicians. Many of them been doing this now for many, many years. I won't even try to remember. Many years. Musicians in the audience, come out. We want to acknowledge you. We don't want to wait until you're dead. We send you flowers and write on Facebook, oh, we love you. I'm not into that. I'm into acknowledging people in the now, in the moment.